Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss the basics of a legal resident versus a tax resident. How are they different? Where do they overlap? Why do you care, right? Worldwide income and reporting, let's go through the basics. On most of my presentations, I go through this quickly just because it's super important for purposes of these presentations and for your tax preparation anyway. U.S. taxes you on your worldwide income. Here's your example. Jim is a U.S. citizen. Jim lives outside of the U.S. in country B, but earns all of his income in country C. The U.S. will tax Jim on all of that wonderful income he's earned in country C, even though Jim doesn't live in the U.S. Why? Citizen-based taxation, not limited to citizens, and it doesn't require any actual residence in the U.S. In addition to the tax on the worldwide income, there's also a foreign reporting requirement. So if you are a tax resident, you also have to report your foreign and offshore overseas assets, accounts, and investments each year. There's a number of different forms. I'll touch upon them later in the presentation. Just because a person is taxed on the income doesn't mean they're going to pay double tax. Generally, if the person has foreign tax credits in the country that they worked in or earned income in, then they may be able to have credits that will apply to reduce the U.S. tax liability. It may not be dollar for dollar, but generally works out favorable for the taxpayer. They may qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion, which helps to exclude some of the foreign income that's being earned. Even if you qualify for it, you have to report the income on your tax return and then claim the exclusion on Form 2555. Just not including it because your overall income is below the threshold doesn't do anything. IRS doesn't know unless you file the form. What is a legal resident? So a legal resident, the two that come to mind for most people is a citizen or a legal permanent resident, right? Both of them have a status of permanent. But there is a third category, and that's foreign nationals who otherwise meet the substantial presence test. It means you're in the U.S. for at least 31 days in the current year and 183 days over a 3-year period using a certain ratio. If you look at the article that accompanies this presentation, we have a manageable short example to kind of explain how it works. Important about the substantial presence test, you could have overstayed your visa, you may be here illegally, doesn't care. You can't use that as a sword and a shield. Remember that. If you're here illegally, the IRS is going to say you qualify for the substantial presence test. If you meet that test, doesn't matter if you're not technically supposed to be here illegally anyway. What are some of the basic tax and reporting requirements for legal tax residents? Well, there's the annual tax return, generally a 1040. Won't be a 1040 NR because you're considered a U.S. person. On that form, you're going to report all of your income, your earned income, employment, consulting income, investment income like capital gains, dividends, interest income, rental income. And something to keep in mind with a lot of these investments, just because they're tax deferred overseas doesn't mean you get that tax deferred status in the U.S. A few quick things that come to mind is the Assurance V, France and Luxembourg, the ISAs in the UK, even like a CPF, which is a provident fund in Singapore, and it's for pension and it's mandatory taxable. So something to keep in mind when you're preparing your tax return with your foreign income. In addition to the tax, you're also going to have many reporting requirements. There's the FBAR, Foreign Bank and Financial Account Reporting. There's FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, Form 8938. PFIX, Passive Foreign Investment Companies, Form 8621. The 5471 for foreign corporations, the 8865 for foreign partnerships. I reiterate this on all of my presentations. It's important to get in compliance if for no other reason, not for altruistic purposes, right? But if the IRS finds you and they ding you, those dings can be pretty serious. But kind of sidestep all of the BS you find online about draconian penalties, everyone getting hit with a $500,000 penalty doing 1,000 years in prison. It doesn't work that way. 99% of the time, it's a civil issue that can be resolved through the amnesty programs, which I'll go through here in a second. You might see things online about filing forward and quiet disclosures. It's just not worth it. I mean, to each their own. But if the IRS catches you doing one of those things, then they will hit you with serious penalties. We've had clients come to us who try to do this. They read it on an expat site and assumed it would be a no-brainer until they get audited, and then it becomes a major willful penalty problem. There are many amnesty programs you can use to safely get into compliance. If you're willful, they have a program for you, right? It's the traditional voluntary disclosure program. You don't even have to be willful. You may just not be able to certify under penalty of perjury that you're non-willful. They used to have OVDP, which was the offshore version. They trashed that back in September 2018. Now the traditional program is used for both domestic and foreign. There's the streamlined filing compliance procedures for people who are not. The rest of these programs are for people who are non-willful. Streamlined filing compliance, which can be broken down further into the domestic and foreign offshore procedures. Foreign is just basically for people who don't qualify as domestic residents, but it still includes foreign assets and income. Domestic is for U.S. residents. There's the delinquency procedures if you qualify. Even if you do qualify, sometimes streamline is a better option. Some people may refer to delinquency as reasonable cause. Reasonable cause actually is a bit different, but the same depending on how you submit it. We have lots of information available on our website, goldinglawyers.com. You can always schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate to help you. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.